Welcome to GRTV, here from Leipzig Game Convention. I'm standing here with Jon Cato from the Norwegian Gamereactor. And we're here today not to talk about the convention, but to talk about the Star Wars games that I've been looking forward to the most this year, Force Unleashed. Give us a brief introduction to the game.
Well, Star Wars The Force Unleashed is the story of the Dark Apprentice, which is basically Darth Vader's secret Jedi assassin. He killed the guy's father when he was a small child, and then he raised him as his own apprentice, teaching him the ways of the Force, using electricity and everything that evil Jedi Master should be able to handle.
And through a Star Wars perspective, how does the storyline work?
Well, the story of the game is put somewhere between the first trilogy and the second trilogy, before Luke Skywalker, but after the Clone Wars and everything that happened. And basically it fits in quite well for a Star Wars game. It feels like some secret story that George Lucas hasn't told us about yet. It goes on the side. You get to see Leia Organa in the game. You get to see a lot of familiar stuff, but also stuff they've invented themselves.
Lucasarts has been talking a lot about how the Force Unleashed stands for more or less kicking ass with the Force. I think that's actually a direct quote from Lucasarts. How does it feel in game to use the Force powers? Do you actually kick ass with Force?
This was the biggest surprise to me because it's basically an action game where you constantly attack enemies and go through new areas, and this can quickly get boring. But LucasArts has managed to find a perfect balance between using the abilities of the Force and using your lightsaber. Basically you have all kinds of attacks with your lightsaber, and you have special Force powers like lifting things, throwing them at people, charging them with electricity. Also the environment comes into play. If you're in, for example, a space station and you break the windows, the soldiers are sucked out through the window because of the vacuum. So you have these very playful environments and all kinds of things you can do with the Force. And you really want to do things with the Force, because if you just kill enemies one way all the time, you don't get as much Force points, and you use Force points to upgrade your abilities, to get new abilities and to get stronger.
It sounds to me like you really enjoyed The Force Unleashed.
Yeah, I was really surprised at how good a game it is, because the graphics are very good. I really like the atmosphere in the graphics. They have recreated planets that we know and planets that we don't know, and everything feels very Star Wars. But the combat system and the controls are really what caught me, what made me play level after level, night after night, because you feel really powerful when you're playing.
But how about some negative points about the game? Because I've heard some bad things about the camera, for example. Were there anything in the game that you didn't like as much?
Yeah, the camera has a life of its own, and you can reset it behind you like in most action games, and once you get used to it, it works, but it could be better. Another thing is that they have copied the quick time events from the God of War games, for instance, where you fight a boss, and then when his health is low, you get this press X and press A and press B, and you have to do it really fast. And I found this works in some kind of games, but it's not as spectacular in this game. The actual fighting, where you control everything yourself, I thought was more spectacular than these kind of over-the-top finishes.
So to sum up the good and the bad, what grade do you give the game?
Well, basically this is the best Star Wars games in ages. It feels Star Wars, it takes itself seriously. I was a little bit afraid that it would be too dark, too moody, too MTV generation, emo, tough guy, but it doesn't. It tells a good story, it takes the universe seriously, and it's great fun. For the first time you really feel in control of the Force. So I give it an 8 out of 10. It's very playable, very enjoyable, and full of secrets, so 2 playthroughs is guaranteed.